The ember glows faintly, a dull red buried beneath its shroud of ash. A woman bends low, her breath coaxing it back to life. The sound is soft, almost secret, the hiss of smoke, the gentle sigh of wood catching flame. Her shawl slips from her shoulders as she stirs the coals, the cold of the night pressing hard against the thatch above. The room smells of tallow, of damp wool, of bread long gone hard. Behind her, the straw bed rustles, children stirring, half dreaming still. They murmur words no one understands, caught between the world of sleep and the waking silence that has claimed the hut. Her husband sits nearby, shoulders bent from the fields, sharpening a knife upon stone. Each stroke is slow, deliberate, its scrape echoing in the stillness like the marking of time. The blade glimmers for a moment in the candle's trembling glow before vanishing back into shadow. His face is drawn, hollowed by toil and hunger, but his eyes remain sharp, focused not only on the tool, but on the weight of what the day will demand when dawn finally comes. The hour between the first and second sleep is no accident. It arrives like a ritual, woven into the rhythm of life itself. To wake at midnight is not disturbance, but expectation. Some rise to mend tools, others to murmur prayers. A mother may watch her child's breath in the darkness, listening for fever, whispering protection into the silence. Neighbors sometimes cross thresholds, cloaks heavy with frost, voices hushed as they trade secrets or herbs. What daylight conceals, night makes visible. In this pause, the fragile threads of life are seen most clearly, guilt laid bare, hope whispered, love stolen in moments where the world seems to stop. The woman feeds the flame, watching it leap higher, painting her face in soft gold. The light clings to her hands, cracked and raw from labor, yet tender as she pulls her child closer. The boy stirs, whispering of a dream, a door opening into light, before surrendering once more to sleep. She lingers on the image, her heart aching. Doors in her world are more often closed than open, and light seldom comes without a price. Yet in this hour, between one slumber and another, dreams carry a weight beyond fancy. They are omens, warnings, promises whispered by a world unseen. The knife's rhythm ceases, and the man lays it down, satisfied for now. He glances toward the shutter, its wooden slats trembling faintly in the winter wind. Outside, the village is hushed, but not dead. A dog barks in the distance, then falls silent. The cry of an owl cuts through the air, sharp as the blade he holds. Somewhere, a neighbor's lantern glows faintly, a pinprick against the endless dark. The world is watching, listening, waiting in this hour of division. Silence here is not emptiness. It is presence. It is the heavy veil that hangs between the living and the dead, between the divine and the profane. The woman whispers a prayer under her breath, a plea for protection, for endurance. Her voice is low, but in this stillness, it feels louder than bells. She crosses herself, then returns to the hearth, placing another scrap of wood upon the fire. The flame accepts the offering, flaring brighter, its shadows stretching long across the hut. Soon, the hour will end. The bodies will return to the straw, cloaks pulled close, eyes sinking shut once more. The second sleep is deeper, heavier, as though the night itself folds them into its womb. But this waking has left its mark. The knife is sharper, the fire stronger, the prayer spoken, the dream remembered. The silence has absorbed every whisper, every sigh, and now holds them in its grip to be carried into the darker waters of the second slumber. The man lowers himself to the pallet, the straw rustling beneath him. The woman follows, her body weary, yet her mind alive with the memory of her child's words. The fire bends low, its glow softening, its crackle fading to breath. One by one, they surrender again, their chests rising and falling in slow rhythm, the hush of sleep descending like a tide. Outside, the frost deepens. The square stands empty, its well glistening faintly in the starlight. The shutters close upon the last glow of lanterns, and the village folds back into silence. But the hour has already carved its shape. Tomorrow, no one will speak of it. Yet it will linger in the mind, the rasp of steel, the whisper of a dream, the flare of fire in the dark. And so the night divides itself. One life lived, then another, both contained within the same darkness. The ember glows still, hidden beneath ash, waiting for the breath that will call it forth again. The rhythm endures, as ancient as the soil beneath their feet, as fragile as the flame that guards them. For when night falls twice, it is not only sleep that returns. It is the truth of who they are when the world is silent, when only the fire and the darkness bear witness. And as the embers dim and silence reclaims its dominion, the story prepares to move beyond the hearth, to the stone towers where monks keep their vigils, where bells toll against the void, and where faith binds the night as surely as the body binds its second slumber. The bell trembles in the dark, its first strike heavy, iron against silence. The sound moves like a wave through stone walls, waking those who have already surrendered to their first slumber. In narrow cells lined with straw, monks stir. They pull woolen robes about their shoulders, cowls falling low, feet pressing against flagstones that drink the cold of the night. One by one they emerge, shadows made flesh, moving slowly but with purpose, as though time itself has summoned them. The corridor echoes faintly with the shuffle of sandals, with a cough smothered against a sleeve, with the rustle of cloth brushing stone. The monastery breathes with them. The arches of the cloister loom overhead, white with frost that clings to their bones. Beyond the open arcades, the garden lies silent, its herbs and graves silvered with ice. The air smells of damp stone and smoke, and in the distance, the bell continues to toll, steady as a heartbeat. They follow its voice, filing into the nave, where the shadows stretch endlessly upward into a vault they cannot see. At the altar, a row of candles burns low, their flames guttering in the draught, wax pooling into soft rivers of white. Smoke rises in fragile threads, curling like the prayers yet to be spoken. They kneel. The wood creaks beneath their weight, their heads bow low. At first, there is only breath, the faint murmur of lips shaping words. Then, voices rise. Soft, hesitant, then bound together, weaving chant into the stone. Latin syllables, worn smooth by centuries of use, echo into the arches, echo back again, as if the building itself remembers. The music is not song, but supplication, a net cast into the darkness to catch the mercy of heaven. Some voices are strong, steady, sonorous. Others tremble, cracked with age, weighed down by sickness or hunger. One brother falters, his cough tearing through the harmony, but he returns to the chant, his voice weak but unyielding. This is the vigil, carved into the night, not as luxury, but as duty. The second waking is not a burden, but an offering, given in obedience to a rhythm older than kings. Outside, the village sleeps, beasts huddle in their pens, shutters bar the cold. But here, the men of God rise to face the silence, to pierce it with prayer, to divide their night in the service of eternity. The flame on the altar sputters. Shadows lurch across their faces, eyes hollow, yet alight with devotion. When the psalms finally fade, silence swells back into the space, heavier now, layered with all that has been spoken. Some remain, whispering still, their foreheads pressed against wood, lips moving even after their voices fail. Others rise, bowing deeply, their steps echoing as they return to their cells. The corridor swallows them one by one, the frost-laden air greeting them like an old adversary. They lay themselves down once more, pulling rough blankets over their shoulders, the scent of smoke and wax still clinging to their robes. Their bodies surrender, but their dreams now bear the weight of prayer, threaded with the echo of psalms that continue in silence. Above, the bell tower stands immovable, its iron tongue still. But its command lingers, as if the very night has been divided by its voice. Soon enough, dawn will crawl across the cloisters, pale and cold, summoning them once more. Yet for now, the second sleep descends, heavy, inevitable, carrying them deeper into darkness. And in that darkness, their voices continue, not in sound, but in memory, woven into the rhythm of a night that refuses to remain whole. The square lies still, cobblestones silvered with frost, the well standing like a black sentinel at its center. The village is hushed, yet not silent. Beneath the thatched roofs, in the narrow huts of wood and wattle, the first sleep has broken. Doors creak faintly as latches lift, and lanterns flicker alive in shuttered windows. The air is sharp, bitter with smoke, pierced by the faint crunch of boots upon frozen earth. A man steps across the lane, his cloak heavy with frost, his lantern trembling against the fog. He pauses, glances back, then disappears into the shadow of another door. Inside, the air is thick with tallow, sweat, and the damp sweetness of straw. Neighbors exchange whispers, faces pale in the dim glow, hands passing herbs, charms, and secrets across rough-hewn tables. What could not be spoken under daylight is born in this interlude, when the village itself seems suspended between worlds. A woman sets down a bundle of rosemary, muttering of fevers. A man confesses the strength of an omen seen in dreams. Others listen, weighing each word as though the silence itself demands honesty. Children stir in their palates, voices half caught in dreams. One girl murmurs about a door opening into light, another whimpers, clutching her blanket tighter. Their mothers touch their brows, smoothing their hair with hands cracked by frost and toil. The fathers lean closer to the hearth, sharpening tools, repairing harness, tending to the necessities that daylight never permits. The scrape of blade against stone, the tug of spindle twisting wool, the cough of lungs thick with winter, each sound rises loud in the hush, sharpened against the vast quiet pressing at the walls. The night outside seems alive. An owl cries from the forest edge, sharp and mournful. Dogs answer with low, uneasy barks. Lantern light drips across the square in pale circles, like fragile fortresses against the void. In the barns, livestock shuffle restlessly, their bodies steaming in the cold. The smell of dung and hay clings to the wind, mixing with the damp odor of rotting wood. The village is neither asleep nor awake, but something in between, a fragile breath held across every hut and alley. This is no idle hour. It is claimed as survival, as prayer, as rebellion. Lovers clasp hands under cloaks, whispering words forbidden by the day. Mothers rock their infants, lips pressed to fevered skin. Old men lean upon their sticks, telling stories only half remembered, words slurring as though carried across two worlds. The silence is fragile, sacred, dangerous. For in its folds, truths are spoken that daylight will not tolerate. And then, as slowly as it came, the hour begins to close. The man returns to his hut, frost glittering upon his cloak. Lanterns gutter, shutters close, the square darkens once more. Inside the cottages, families gather to their straw beds, pulling cloaks tight around their shoulders. The fire flares once, then settles into embers, the room filled with the faint glow of dying light. The second sleep comes heavy, deeper, swallowing not only bodies but confessions, prayers, and secrets alike. The village exhales, surrendering again to stillness. The square stands empty, the well a black mouth drinking in the stars. Dreams rise now, thick and strange, colored by the whispers of the hour just past. By dawn, the memory of it will linger only faintly, like smoke clinging to garments. But the rhythm endures, wakefulness and slumber, silence and confession, light and darkness. The night, divided against itself, becomes a mirror of the people who live within it, broken, burdened, but enduring. And in that endurance, the story does not end. Beyond the huts and hearths, beyond the square and its frozen well, other lives stir in the same fragile pause. Monks whisper psalms, healers tend their sick, and bells wait in their towers, ready to fracture silence once again. The village rests, but the night is far from finished. The candle burns low, its wick bent, flame trembling in the draught that slips through the cracks of timber and stone. Wax slides down its shaft in pale rivulets, hardening like tears along the iron sconce. The chamber smells of smoke, of damp earth pressed into the walls, of straw too long left unturned. A man kneels before a rough-hewn table, shadow stretched tall and crooked against the wall. Upon the table lies a rosary, its beads darkened, smooth from years of restless fingers. He clutches it now, head bowed low, lips shaping words he dares not speak in daylight. His whispers are soundless, swallowed into the silence, yet each syllable weighs heavier than stone. Behind him, on the pallet of straw and coarse wool, his wife lies still. Her eyes remain closed, her body turned toward the wall. Yet her breath has shifted, slow and deliberate, as if she listens without wanting to know. Her hands rest folded against her chest, like those of a figure carved in wood above a tomb. In the dim light, her face seems carved also, lined with care, furrowed with years of hunger and worry. She is silent, but her silence is louder than his prayer. He speaks of debts left unpaid, of oaths broken in anger, of desires carried in secret glances. He remembers the alehouse, the laughter too loud, the words spoken too freely. He remembers hands that strayed, bargains struck, promises forgotten. In the day, the plow, the soil, the toil of his back hide such truths. But here, between sleeps, no labor shields him. Only the veil of night demands honesty, tearing open what he would rather bury. His voice falters, and he grips the rosary tighter, beads pressing into his palms until they leave red welts, marks like wounds across his skin. The chamber listens. The candle sputters, flame stretching thin as though straining to hear. From beyond the walls, a night bird calls, a sound sharp and sudden, echoing like a judgment. He freezes, breath caught, then begins again, more frantic now, as though racing the flame before it dies. His wife stirs faintly, one hand shifting on the blanket, but her eyes remain closed. He does not look at her. He cannot. He fears that in her stillness she knows more than God himself, that she carries his confessions within her silence, binding them tighter than beads upon a string. At last, the rosary slips from his grasp, falling against the table with a clatter sharp in the silence, like bones against stone. He startles, his prayer broken, his breath ragged. For a long moment there is nothing, no sound, no word, only the thick weight of the dark. The candle bows lower, its light dimming, its smoke curling like a spirit into the rafters. He rises unsteadily, shoulders bent, and lowers himself beside his wife once more. She does not move, though her breathing quickens, shallow, uneven, betraying her wakefulness. He lies facing the wall, unable to turn toward her, unable to meet what he has already given away. Slowly, the second sleep creeps upon them, dragging them into its deeper waters. His eyes close, though his body remains tense, as if even in dreams he fears judgment. The flame gutters, then dies, leaving only the faint red glow of embers in the hearth. Shadows swell to fill the room, swallowing beams, walls, bodies, until nothing remains but silence. The silence does not release what has been spoken. It holds it, heavy and unyielding, carrying it into the dreams of the guilty. Outside, the village lies still, its shutters fastened, its lanes empty, its square silent. Yet within each hut the same ritual endures, whispers to the dark, prayers unspoken, guilt confessed in half-breaths. The second sleep enfolds them, merciful but merciless, taking their secrets deeper, hiding them where no daylight can reach. But morning will come, and with it the sound of bells, the weight of toil, the faces of neighbors who suspect more than they admit. For the night may be divided, but the burden it reveals remains whole. And so the story prepares to turn again, from the quiet confessions of guilt to the hours stolen for love, when hands reach across straw and shadows conspire to protect what daylight condemns. The shutter creaks against the winter wind, and a thin spill of moonlight cuts across the chamber like a blade. The straw bed shifts, rustling faintly, as two figures stir. The first sleep has ended, and the silence between slumbers has come upon them. He turns, his face gaunt and hollow from toil, the lines of hardship etched deeply into his skin. His hand reaches in the darkness, trembling but certain, finding hers beneath the rough wool blanket. She answers by pressing closer, her hair falling unbound, veiling them both in its shadow. Their breaths mingle in the cold air, warm for only a fleeting moment, but in this hour such warmth feels eternal. The chamber is narrow, its walls blackened by smoke, its rafters sagging with age. The smell of hay, damp wool, and tallow lingers, heavy as the silence. Yet here, it feels like sanctuary, a secret cloister carved from the night. No priest watches, no lord commands, no neighbor whispers. The darkness itself conspires to guard them. His fingers clasp hers tighter, and she tilts her head, whispering words only the night will hear. Her laughter is fragile, quickly swallowed, but in that breath there is more truth than the sermons of daylight. Outside, the village remains still, but not silent. A dog barks and is hushed. The branches of bare trees moan under frost. Lanterns glow faintly in the square, the faint swaying light tracing lines across frozen stone. Yet within this narrow bed of straw, time bends, softens, disappears. The weight of obedience and duty, of masters and labor, of hunger and silence, all dissolve in the hush of this stolen hour. Here, their bodies are not tools but temples, their closeness a rebellion against the world that would keep them apart. The candle flickers faintly on the table, its flame bending low. Shadows stretch long across their bodies, painting them as though with the hand of an unseen artist. She rests her forehead against his, her breath feathering across his lips. His chest rises and falls, trembling with the weight of words he cannot speak, not here, not now, but which live in his silence. That this moment, fragile as it is worth more than a lifetime of daylight. The second sleep hovers, waiting, inevitable. Soon it will come, heavy and unrelenting, pulling them back into stillness, wits erasing this hour like ink washed from parchment. But for now, they linger. Their hands cling stubbornly, their bodies curved together, their hearts hammering against the silence as if to inscribe themselves upon it. When they do surrender, it is not to forget, but to preserve, to carry this ember into the deeper dark, hidden, unyielding, alive. The candle gutters, its flame bowing at last, smoke spiraling upward like incense. Darkness cloaks them fully, but the heat of their closeness endures. Outside, frost tightens its hold on the village, covering roofs, seeping into beams, silencing even the restless beasts. Yet here, in this small chamber, rebellion has been carved from shadows. What is forbidden in daylight has been sanctified by night. And so the night turns again, dividing itself once more. Soon the hush of passion will give way to the silence of duty, to the rituals of those who rise not for love, but for need. Beyond the edge of the square, in a hut smelling of smoke and herbs, another figure waits for the knock upon her door. The healer, who keeps vigil when others dare not wake. The hut breathes with smoke and silence. Bundles of herbs hang from the rafters, their brittle leaves rustling when the wind presses through the cracks. The air is thick with the mingled scents of lavender, thyme, and sage, battling against the bitter tang of soot. Ash clings to the stones of the hearth, where embers glow like tired eyes, waiting for her hand. She rises from her bedding, bones aching, woolen shift heavy with the night's damp. The first sleep has ended, and she knows the second will not come soon. For this is her hour, the healer's vigil. She moves with deliberate care, feet bare against the creaking boards, her shadow bending long across the floor of the crooked walls. A pot is set upon the coals, water slowly beginning to steam. Her pestle finds its bowl, grinding roots into powder with a rhythm steady and relentless. The sound echoes like a muted drum, each strike a reminder of bodies she has saved and of those she has not. Her lips move in half prayers, half recipes, murmured fragments older than she is, words carried down by women who walked this same path in centuries past. Ease the breath, cool the fever, still the pain. Smoke curls upward as if carrying those words into the rafters, binding them there like charms. She listens. She always listens. The world outside seems still, but she knows better. Fevers do not sleep, nor do wounds wait for dawn. Her ears strain past the crackle of fire, past the hiss of boiling water, past the sigh of the wind. She hears the weight of snow sliding from a roof. She hears the faint shuffle of feet upon frozen earth. A knock may come at any moment, hesitant, hurried, desperate. They will curse her in daylight, calling her witch, muttering fear into the marketplace. But when the night divides, they come to her door, their voices trembling, their hands clutching those they love. The latch rattles. A shadow falls across the threshold. She opens the door, and the cold rushes in, carrying with it a man with a child slumped in his arms. The child's skin is damp, fever bright in his eyes. Without question, she ushers them in. The father's breath clouds in the lamplight, his words spilling in broken urgency, but she does not listen to his panic. Her hands are already moving, gathering cloth, crushing leaves, stirring water. She sets the child upon the straw by the fire, her palm resting lightly upon his chest, whispering words too soft to catch. Hours pass unnoticed. She bathes the boy's brow, presses bitter draughts to his lips, murmurs to calm his tremors. The father hovers, wringing his hands, his eyes filled with fear and shame. He knows by day he would not enter this hut. He knows the whispers he has repeated about her. Yet tonight, his son's life lies in her hands. She does not look at him. Her attention belongs wholly to the fragile body before her, to the rise and fall of shallow breath, to the faint hope she must coax back into steadiness. At last, the fever eases. The child sinks into a softer sleep, his chest steady, his brow cooler beneath her touch. The father weeps quietly, clutching her hand, murmuring thanks. She does not answer. She is already weary, her shoulders slumped, her face pale in the glow of the embers. He gathers the boy in his arms once more, wrapping him in his cloak, and disappears back into the night, the door closing with a hollow thud. The silence returns, thick and familiar. She sinks into her chair, her tools scattered around her, the scent of herbs clinging to her hands, to her hair, to the very fabric of her shift. The fire sighs low, and she leans her head into her palms, finally allowing her eyes to close. The second sleep comes heavy, dragging her downward, deeper than prayer, deeper than exhaustion. She does not resist. She has given what was asked of her. The village sleeps, but her vigil lingers in its breath, in the lives spared by her work, in the fear and reverence her name will carry when dawn comes. And outside, frost grips the roofs tighter, the sky swollen with stars indifferent to the labors below. Yet within this hut, a truth has been carved. Some are called to divide their nights not for love, not for confession, not for prayer, but for the fragile survival of others. The embers dim. The silence thickens. And as she drifts into the second sleep, another sound begins to stir. Far away, yet near enough to tremble in the bones. The toll of iron from a bell tower, breaking the silence once more, dividing the night for all who lie beneath it. The tower rises like a shadow against the sky, its stones black with frost, its silhouette heavy over the silent town. At its heart waits the bell, a vast iron mouth that has not spoken since the last division of the night. Below, in a chamber damp with cold, the watchman pulls upon the frayed rope. His hands ache with age, his shoulders strain against the weight, and when the first toll erupts, it shudders through him like a wound. The sound rolls outward, iron against silence, echoing down crooked lanes, striking roofs and walls, rattling shutters as though the whole village trembled at once. The boy is the first to wake. Straw shifts under him as his eyes snap open, his chest pounding in rhythm with the bell's voice. He clutches his blanket tight, the cold biting into his skin, and rises from his pallet to the small frost-covered window. His breath fogs the glass as he presses close. The square lies below, a pale expanse coated with snow, lanterns swaying faintly where the wind teases their flames. With each toll, light shivers, shadows leap, and the night feels vast and alive. Around him, families stir. In cottages pressed tight along the lanes, men and women wake to the bell's command. Some fall to their knees upon splintered boards, muttering hurried prayers, crossing themselves against what the sound might summon. Others whisper confessions to the dark, their voices small, afraid the bell has called heaven's ear closer. In barns, beasts shift uneasily, snorting, stamping, their fear answering the vibration through earth and timber. Even the dogs howl, their cries ragged and mournful, weaving a chorus beneath the iron above. The bell is not only time, it is dominion. It divides night as surely as a blade splits flesh. It tells each soul when to rise, when to bend, when to sleep. It speaks of God's order and of man's obedience. For centuries, its voice has ruled, more certain than sun, more enduring than memory. The villagers know its rhythm as they know hunger, as they know frost, as they know silence. The boy does not fear. For him, the tolling is awe, vast and beautiful, filling his chest until he feels he might burst. He imagines the great wheel turning above, the iron tongue striking, the tower itself swaying with each cry. He feels as though he could climb into its sound and be carried away, lifted into the night sky where the stars shiver in their frozen watch. His eyes burn, though with wonder, not dread. He lingers at the window long after his mother whispers for him to return to bed. When the last toll fades, the silence returns heavier, as though the bell had awakened the night only to let it collapse again. The lanterns dim, doors creak shut, and the square folds into shadow. The boy steps back from the glass, his heart still trembling with echoes. He curls into the straw once more, but his sleep is not as it was. Dreams come quick, vast and ringing, filled with towers and bells that toll forever in skies of iron and snow. Above, the tower looms, its stones catching faint starlight, its voice at rest until the next command. The bell waits, immovable, its silence no less powerful than its cry. The village breathes again, folding into the second sleep, but each soul carries the echo within them, woven into bone and breath. And beyond the toll of iron, beyond the fragile quiet of huts and hearths, the world itself is shifting. For the rhythm of nights divided is not eternal. A new dawn waits, bearing clocks and candles, cities and industry, powers that will silence the bell and smother the old ways. The boy drifts deeper into his dream, unknowing. But history leans closer, its hand already upon the rope, ready to pull, ready to change the sound of night forever.